Meet Nagi. Yeah, like that kid from Blue Lock. But while he kicks balls, this one holds them. Pause. I mean, not just balls. Dude has this infinite bag for anything and everything. Like a hoarder's dream. But unfortunately, the kid is at the lowest possible white rank. At least he's so good at filling that bag. He's paid 5 times more than your average porter. But Nagi's dream is to be a real adventurer. The kind that actually fights. But in this world, having no talent is like being born 5 feet tall, with a face made for radio. You don't have the luxury of choice. So he's worked as a porter his whole life. But I gotta give him credit. Even without skills, Nagi has a genius way to fight using items from his bag, making traps, combos, and even pop-up lounges for adventurers to relax in. But that, of course, isn't enough. And right as he's about to quit this dream, he meets this absolute unit of a woman named Agnesa, an S-rank goddess I'd personally like to be stepped on by. When Nagi meets her, he realizes his years of watching adventurers taught his body more than he thought. Also, bros like Rocky, having practiced the same slash for ages. Now, it's time for Nagi to become a real adventurer and destroy the dungeons that killed his family. But is that even possible? How can the lowest rank get strong enough for dungeons without a system like Sung Jin Woo's? This level-up manhwa has a genius kid. Thick thighs. And insane art. What more could you want? Gee? Let's get it. The boy begins. This world I live in is full of dungeons. A cave-type dungeon is created. A labyrinth-type dungeon is added. And there's even a tower of trials. This is a world of grand dungeons. And countless treasures lie within. In this place, the greatest honor is becoming an adventurer and gathering wealth from the dungeons. But not just anyone can be an adventurer. You must be one of the chosen. And he doesn't really look the part, does he? He's just walking through the brush with a huge pack on his back. Near the borders. You see folks crossing like that, too. There are probably 3 rags in that sack. Tomato Nose sees him and says, "Ahead is the dungeon. Only those with permission are allowed to enter." But then he notices the kid's necklace. He asks if he's the porter. And yep, this is our guy. His rank is white porcelain. Name, Nagi. Wait. What? You getting in to kick a ball or something? The old guard says. Go on in. Already. But it's kind of embarrassing. Showing up late with just a backpack. Apparently, adventurers these days don't know the meaning of respect. But where are the other porters? Normally, you pay 50 gold coins and a bunch of them show up to carry it all. Nagi pats his chest and says he's one of the best at hauling big stuff. His salary alone is 50 gold coins. The guy claps sarcastically, asking if he's lying, telling him to cut the nonsense because for that money, they should have sent 4 or 5 people. Then the loudmouth kid replies, "You see these backpacks? You won't only be carrying those. You're also going to haul our loot from the dungeon. Think you can handle that?" And now that I'm looking at him, I thought this guy was a guard. But it seems he's going to be in Nagi's party. He says if the kid can't handle it, he can go ask the association for help now. Nagi walks up, saying, "Damn, you guys have lots of stuff for a group of just 4. He thinks to himself this reaction is pretty common. It's not normal for a porter to earn 50 gold coins a day when most get 10. In cases like this, instead of making excuses, it's better to just show them how it's done. He tosses his huge pack down, grabs all the smaller backpacks, and starts stuffing them inside. The guys by the fire are all just watching. And the moment they realize he's using a magic backpack, you know they're gonna want to steal it. Everyone's scratching their heads, wondering where the items went, how this magic thing works, how much it costs. Nagi, bent from the weight, says, "Sorry, you losers. Only I can use this. So back off." The blonde dude then tells them to hold up. Impressive as the pack is. What's it gonna do in a real fight? After all, the kid was just hired to haul their stuff. This guy's name is Jetnom. Yeah, I know. Weird name. Gold rank. He dramatically points forward, saying Nagi better be worth every gold coin. Obviously, he needs to pull the weight of 5 people. Or it's a total ripoff. Nagi figures this guy must be the leader. He seems like a total hard-ass. But whatever. He's a professional porter, and before this dungeon run is over, he's going to make sure every single client leaves happy. His magic is a bit special, and he begins explaining why he's paid so much more than other porters. It's not just because he can carry a mountain of gear. It's because he leaves adventurers times satisfied. Ahem. Alrighty. Then, adventurers dive into dungeons to hunt, facing constant danger, hidden traps, monster ambushes, and coordinated strikes. These guys are taking a serious beating. And this is exactly the kind of chaos Nagi is prepared for. The stress in a place like this is insane. But managing it is his whole deal. The blonde dude screams, "Were you blockheads told to keep your guard up or what? You idiots?" One guy blames the other. No one wants to own the screw-up. Seeing this, Nagi says he capitalized on that gap in the market. Is this guy a business coach? And here he comes, whipping out that giant pack and calling everyone over. He tells them he knows they're starving after all that non-stop hunting. And that's why a gourmet meal has just been served. The two knuckleheads just stare, drooling, trying to place that heavenly smell. Yup. The kid brought a full-on feast. That's his secret skill, dungeon restaurant. Tomato Cheeks bites into the meat and exclaims it's delicious, like it was cooked seconds ago. The other guy, Mr. Green Hair, totally agrees. The dude gets emotional. He's never eaten this well inside a dungeon. They immediately ask if the backpack keeps food fresh or if it's some kind of innate skill. What's the deal? Nagi just says he can't explain everything. The main thing is, it's way too soon for them to be impressed. Then, with a flourish, bam, he pulls out an entire bathtub. The bearded dude starts wondering if he accidentally teleported to a 5-star resort. The scenery wasn't paradise, but the feeling, oh man, it was incredible. Then, out of nowhere, the blonde leader barks at them, asking if by some chance, they think they're on some kind of vacation. Do they not realize they're still deep inside a dungeon? He was about to lecture them on discipline. Still, he's not gonna lie. This water feels divine. So, he declares he has no choice but to test it himself. Then he sighs. Man, I was so ready to believe you weren't worth those 50 gold coins. I was even planning to complain to the guild and demand a refund. But now I see. For everything you've provided, 50 gold coins was a steal. Nearby, Nagi notes that dungeon crawling, much like in a level-up manhwa, is exhausting. People think it's just about fighting monsters, but a ton of other problems pop up. Some hunters starve, can't fight at full strength, and end up dead. As a porter, he knows he only gets paid if the adventurers survive. That's why he goes all out to ensure their success. The bearded guy laughs, saying, "This kid's way too humble. Not even the top brass from our guild would get this kind of 5-star treatment. He's never experienced anything like it." That bath totally recharged his batteries, and now he feels like he can take on any monster in here. He leaps up, totally fired up, while Nagi just deadpans. This guy is a maniac. But just as predicted, the rest of the dungeon crawl was a breeze. The party was already skilled, so they mowed through huge swarms of monsters. The real problem, as always, was the final boss. That's because these bosses are notoriously unpredictable. The blonde leader says, "This one's especially tricky. It looks like Rex from Toy Story, waddling around while everyone screams not to give it an opening." The beast raises a massive claw, slams it down, and one of the guys dives out of the way, firing an arrow straight into its hand. The shot triggers a spiderweb trap, but the creature just plows forward and whips its powerful tail, slamming it right into a shield. But the blonde dude swings in, draws his sword, and lands a solid hit with his positive attribute talent, slicing that tail clean off. Of course, the boss keeps spamming little magic attacks, but the blonde guy is blocking like a champ. And man, they are seriously tanking through it. Suddenly, the boss unleashes a firestorm while Nagi stays hidden. This boss is the Zarum lizard, a B-rank creature. From what he's seen, Nagi figures they've got an 80% chance of winning, but 80% still leaves a 20% chance of failure. And if they lose, Nagi gets squat, so he has to make sure that doesn't happen. A little help couldn't hurt. He rummages through his backpack and finds something, and says this should do the trick. These guys already have the muscle. All he needs to do is create a small opening. It's just a shame he has to use this mimic mushroom, which is ridiculously expensive. But hey, the main goal is to finish the job. The boss charges in again, ready to chomp down on the blonde dude. But Nagi knows it doesn't matter how wild its moves are. He just needs to calculate the perfect moment to throw. The boss spots the giant mushroom coming. It explodes right on its head, in a thick cloud of smoke. While the creature is coughing and reeling, the blonde guy shouts, "What was that?" Nagi just raises a pom-pom and says the perfect chance to attack has arrived. The blonde dude grins. He uses the opening to scale the beast's tail, climb its back, get to its head, and drive his weapon straight into its skull. Talk about a level-up manhwa moment. Man, that thing weighs like 500 kilos. It just crushes the lizard's dome. Right after, Yisup compliments everyone and tells them to gather the loot. And just like that, the day's dungeon was cleared without much trouble. But as always, the good mood didn't last. They were supposed to collect at least 20 B-rank stones from that thing, but in the end, they only got 5 stones and a bunch of low-tier items. To make matters worse, most of the monsters this time were just basic trash mobs like goblins. When you weigh the time and effort against the reward, what they actually earned, it was clearly a total loss. And now they had to split the loot, which wasn't much to begin with. In a split second, the cheerful mood from clearing the dungeon just vanished. Now everyone's yelling at each other. Even dividing the rewards became a huge issue, but it's whatever. That stuff happens with adventurers. Nagi's just the porter, so he doesn't really care about all that drama. Besides, his salary is fixed. He's not stressing. So, he pulls out 2 bottles and calls them over, saying they must be thirsty. The blonde guy asks if he's seriously still taking care of them, even though the job's over, and he admits that smoke grenade Nagi threw was the clutch play of the fight. Honestly, they got super lucky running into this kid. I don't know. This blonde guy's being way too nice. Our boy says he's just helping out with his humble skills. But Jepitnam cuts in, saying no, that's not humble at all. The more he sees, the more impressed he is. That backpack of his is like something from a level-up manhwa. It creates insane stuff and seems to have no limit. Maybe there's more loot in that bag than in the whole dungeon. Suddenly, they're all wondering if he's got a nice stash of cash in there. I mean, he gets paid 50 gold coins for every dungeon run. He's definitely racked up a fortune. They really did hit the jackpot with this kid. Everyone's now looking at him with that greedy glint in their eyes. Nagi tries to play it cool, saying, "Hey guys, this conversation's getting a little weird. How about you drink this instead?" But they just smash the bottle in his hand. He dodges the first arrow as a second one flies, and he asks what the hell they're doing. He pulls a full-on Matrix move, dodges again, and tells them to just spit it out. The bearded guy apologizes, saying it was a mistake. He just wanted to make it quick and painless. They have to understand, an adventurer can't risk their life for nothing. The guy in the beanie adds, "Hey man, don't blame us. Times are tough for us, too. You know, we've got taxes to pay. You get it. Besides, you got way too much in that backpack. A gear hauler isn't even gonna use it." Nagi gets up, wondering if this is his life now. People act like it's normal for a porter to disappear in a dungeon since, technically, they aren't supposed to know how to fight. And obviously, if they off him now, they'll just say a goblin got him. Whatever. Nobody's going to care. The happy faces those guys had when thanking him for the help. Gone. Now they're eyeing him like a loot drop. But he's not shaken, not surprised, either. Because this is all too familiar. Truth is, this stuff happens all the time in this world. A place where your lot in life is decided the moment you're born. And of course, treatment for a porter like him is the absolute worst. Nothing changed when he was born, and nothing's changed since. He clearly remembers finding out his skill was a backpack. The looks of disgust on everyone's faces. That hob receptionist from the guild flat out told him that with a skill like his, he'd never qualify as an adventurer. His job would always be transport. To enter a dungeon, he'd be hauling stuff in a bag. Nagi never even had a chance to be an adventurer. That one stamp on his record sealed his profession. And that was that. That's probably what these clowns are thinking. Q-Tip tells him to stop resisting and just die, then lunges with his spear, yelling for the idiot to disappear. But oh man, here we go. Nagi moves, thinking this porter life was never his choice. Unlike in some level-up manhwa, he reaches for his side to pull something out, but stops to block the spear. Q-Tip is totally confused, and Nagi charges in, landing a clean punch to the mouth. The bearded guy, thrown off, tries to swing, but Nagi whips out a small axe and hurls it. It hits him square in the chest. The other two are just standing there, stunned. The blonde one has no idea what's happening. Q-Tip was out in a second, right away. The blonde guy snaps that the pathetic scumbag couldn't even beat a kid. 2 more rush in, but Nagi pulls out some water device and blasts them. It's boiling water. He charges through the steam and delivers a strike. Still, he hasn't taken anyone out. He's going easy, just dishing out punches to the face, stomach, and chest. The idiots are plastered to the wall while the blonde guy stands there, lost. How the heck did this kid take down 3 adventurers just like that? He starts screaming that it's impossible. Nagi's a white rank. How could he pull this off? But Nagi has things in that backpack. A real level-up manhwa situation. He glances over and says not to worry. He's just the group's porter. After all. Naturally. Moments later, everyone's tied up outside. Beaten to a pulp, Nagi notices a carriage pulling up. He raises a hand and says, "They're right, over here. Something good's getting out." And he hopes it's not a dude. He's betting on the thighs. Turns out it's Dungeon Inspector Petra, who says she heard what happened. But why is everyone so bruised and swollen? Everyone got wrecked. She asks what went down, and Nagi just says, "Ask them. They'll explain everything." Actually, he'd used his bag to secretly record their little kill the porter plan. And now it's on playback. Petra finds the hidden recording device fascinating. She calls him a unique kid. He explains it's not a recorder, it's more like storing the sound itself inside his backpack. She says whatever. She gets it. Those guys betrayed him and tried to kill him. What she can't figure is how a mere porter defeated 4 adventurers. On top of that, they look like they've been poisoned by ashwood mushrooms. Nagi says he's impressed she knows about them. She replies, "Of course I know. Those mushrooms lock up your muscles, make you dizzy, and turn your face purple." Nagi says it's simple. Coincidentally, they ate a soup that had those mushrooms in it. And right when they attacked him, the symptoms kicked in. He was just lucky. How else could a guy like him win? He saunters over to the blondie and asks if that isn't the truth. The blonde guy's shaking in his boots. But that's a bald-faced lie. Of course. We saw him beat them down. Sure, he ate the mushrooms. But it wasn't on purpose. Long before they even got serious. They were already snared in this kid's trap. Then Nagi asks if they're times, really times, supposed to be gold-rank adventurers, and bam. Swords clash with the blonde dude. They really go at it. Slash here. A parry there. Nagi ducks low. The blondie sensed something was off, even if they gassed out on the boss. Getting totally wrecked by this backpack, kid made 0 sense. But Nagi just cackles, wondering how this guy ever killed a goblin being so slow. Blondie's convinced he's losing because the humiliation is totally throwing off his game. There was no way he was losing to this backpack kid. Not a chance. He just needed to calm down and finish this now. But with another swing, he whiffs again, muttering, maybe next time he'll connect. Another flub. And now he's saying, maybe next time. He powers his sword with a golden aura and fires a blast. But Nagi just leaps up midair, saying he's getting better. That just ticks the guy off even more. He tries an upward slash, but now Nagi's already beneath him. That's when it clicks. He didn't lose to this kid because Nagi was stronger. He lost because he himself had gotten weaker. The blonde guy starts wondering, what in the world is happening to his body? He's hit with a weird, sick feeling, like he's about to hurl. Nagi casually asks if he forgot to give them a heads up. Oh yeah, they were all poisoned. That tasty meat they chowed down on earlier? Yep, it was laced with toxic mushrooms. Not only do those mushrooms make food taste incredible, but they're also great for handling folks who try to cheat their way out of a jam. Blondie hears this and groans, calling him a devious scoundrel. He says he was betrayed before he even did anything. Nagi nods. Yep, that's the ticket. How's a delicate porter like me supposed to trust sketchy adventurers like you? Once they ate the mushrooms, all they needed was a whiff of a catalyst for the effects to kick in. Nagi's plan was, if everything went smoothly, he'd hand over the antidote and nobody would even get sick. But no, these geniuses made the worst possible move and shattered his bottle. Now, he's holding the last vial, wondering aloud what he's supposed to do with it. The blonde guy knows it. No matter how this went down, even if they claim they were poisoned and betrayed, the story won't fly with anyone. Crying, he just insists he's telling the truth. They went in there, ate some bad food, and that's why they're like this. No way in hell he'll admit he got owned by the backpack kid. That would be a bigger humiliation than just looking like a total fool. Petra's there, staring at the 4 of them bawling, completely baffled, and she calls a guard and tells him to haul these goons away. Meanwhile, Nagi's all, farewell, my friends, I'm out. My work here is done. But Petra calls for him to wait. She asks if he'd like a ride back to the city. He glances over his shoulder and asks, is it free? Cut to them in the carriage. She says it's a shame he went through such an ordeal right after arriving in the city. On behalf of the entire Hunters Association. She wants to apologize. He tells her not to sweat it. Adventurers and porters like him are used to this stuff. She gets it. But says there are still things to be careful about. She knows he wasn't at fault this time. But not everyone's gonna see it that way. It's like a real-life level-up manhwa, especially since the adventurers he took down were from the Dawn Guild. They're notorious for being arrogant rule breakers. And even if Nagi wasn't in the wrong here, those guys are definitely going to want payback. So she's just asking him to be more cautious. But mid-sentence, she looks confused because, all of a sudden, something is eating Nagi from inside his own backpack. He calmly says he hears it and tells the creature to stop. The thing promptly spits him back out. Our boy sighs and tells Gluttony to quit popping out in front of people and get back in the bag. The creature whines that it's starving, and Petra's just like, "What in the world is that?" Maggie casually tells her not to sweat it. That's just Gluttony. A creature who's been crashing in the backpack for who knows how long. He's basically the inventory manager. Before he showed up, it was a disaster in there, swords tangled. Ropes knotted. In exchange for keeping things tidy, the little guy eats the mana stones Nagi earns. And after a day like today, that creature has a ton of organizing ahead of him. On the flip side, Gluttony was about to feast. Since the loot from that dungeon, meant for 4 adventurers, all ended up going straight into Nagi's pack. Nagi tells Gluttony to go nuts and eat double his usual share of mana stones if he wants. Overjoyed, the little creature grabs one and starts munching away. Petra thinks it's bizarre. She's never heard of a magical being that eats mana stones. Nagi admits it's a first for him too, but says there's no reason to worry. He's just a little dude who believes in fair trade. She says, "You're fascinating. Or rather, that backpack of yours is really something else. I've never seen anything like it." But before she can finish, the horse suddenly rears up, and the carriage starts to violently shake. She asks what's wrong, and the soldier has no clue. The beast just won't settle. Then, out of nowhere, Nagi feels a strange shift in the air. His face turns dead serious. It's an unmistakable sensation. A dungeon break. But why here of all places? He immediately calls out to the inspector, pointing and saying there's a dungeon over there that's about to break wide open. She looks completely shaken. This is a massive problem. But how in the world did he know that? Did he have some hidden detection tool? He just replies that it's instinct. She's not buying it. But he says they don't have time for debates. They need to move and warn everyone before casualties start piling up. Still, Petra is reeling, trying to process it. Sensing a dungeon break by instinct alone? That was absurd. Even a top-tier inspector like her couldn't do something like that. Then, Gluttony lets out a tiny burp and nonchalantly confirms, "Yep, dungeon break." He says he loves eating mana stones and can smell them a mile away. More importantly, he's getting a super strong scent from beyond that mountain. So yeah, he's positive. You'd think they'd run, but nope, they're heading right for it to check things out. A dungeon break is what happens when a dungeon is left open for too long. When nobody clears it, a catastrophic shift occurs. Think of a classic level-up Manhwa disaster. Petra confirms it. It really is a dungeon break. And worse, it's already past the point of no return. Monsters are going to start pouring out any second. But again, how the heck did Nagi sense that from so far away? He answers that it's a feeling he could never forget. In fact, he doesn't want to forget it. He remembers exactly how terrifying it is when one of these goes down. You've got pterodactyls in the sky and 6-armed demon things crawling everywhere. What even is this kid? Some dude from the future? The underworld? Petra is still trying to figure him out. When could he have possibly experienced that? And she's kicking herself for not sensing anything. Nagi says something's off. If this dungeon is so close to the city, why didn't any adventurers show up to clear it? Petra checks the registry and confirms the dungeon was assigned to a party a long time ago. Naturally, Nagi asks who accepted the quest and bailed. She says it was a ranked dungeon, accepted by mithril-ranked adventurers, so it should have been cleared by now. The moment Nagi hears that, his suspicions start to grow. He says he needs to figure out what's happening in the city and asks her plan. Petra tells the guard to haul the petty crooks to jail. She's helping the kid, so they head for the city. Soon after, they arrive to find a massive, angry crowd shouting in the streets. Clearly, things were getting weird. The townspeople are yelling that the dungeon's been there forever and nobody's done anything. With a dungeon break imminent, why is everyone just standing around? One guy is just sitting there, totally unbothered. Then there's Miro, a martial artist, who says they need to talk to the guild leader, not to them. Vendar, the other guy there, coldly says to tell them, "This isn't our responsibility." The townsfolk are furious, calling them scumbags. Nearby, Nagi's suspicions are now totally confirmed. The term for this is a dungeon no-show. Though honestly, not everything needs a special name. Author. Essentially, someone buys a dungeon's rights and then just ghosts it. It happens when a high ranker gets bored, takes a weak dungeon, then ditches it when a better one appears. Petra admits that yeah, it happens sometimes, but in those cases, the association just issues a fine. Nagi, however, argues that for a mithril ranker, rolling in cash, a fine is just pocket change. Even if the guy gets off tangent free, the people here lose everything. That dungeon's set to break tonight, and even if they call every association squad, few will arrive in time. And the worst part is, watching those other two adventurers make pathetic excuses. That Deshistar guy is whining about how they're also victims. If their leader bails, how are they supposed to do anything? People should blame the association. Watching this mess, Nagi can't help but think, adventurers are supposed to be heroes, but in the end, they're just selfishly chasing profit. The real issue is, in situations like this, their power is what's needed. Only they are strong enough to stop this. Nagi can't fix it as a simple porter. Wait, is he weak or strong now? I'm so confused. Did he really win just because of some mushrooms? What's going on? Petra says the best they can do is evacuate the village. Saving lives comes first. But Nagi grabs his necklace, asking if she thinks they can truly save anyone. She tells him to explain. So he does. Winter is coming. And with it, forget the Iron Throne. Once everyone loses their homes, how will they possibly survive? He throws the necklace aside, saying it's hopeless. What this village needs is a hero. Wait, did his badge just change? This is a real level-up Manhwa moment. He shouts for them to see what's happening. A dungeon break is unfolding in the very village he happened to visit. He then turns to Petra and asks her, is it true whoever stops a dungeon break keeps all rewards tax-free? She confirms it, and he replies, this is a perfect chance to make some serious money. The two adventurers look around, confused, wondering who this nutcase is and if he's actually challenging the dungeon, but their expressions change the moment they see his gold rank adventurer badge. Ah, right. They probably think he stole it from that chump earlier. Nagi then asks if they want in. If so, the split is 9 for him, 1 for the losers. And just like that, it's finally showtime. Time to be an adventurer. Also, just realizing these chapter lengths are insane. Guys, I am still on chapter 2. What is this? Anyway, the story explains what rift dungeons are. They're gateways connecting Earth to unknown worlds. To enter one of these, you should be at least gold rank. The difficulty isn't just about monsters. Obviously, you'll have to fight strong ones. That part's expected, but a major problem is that it's nearly impossible to gauge a dungeon's danger from the outside. The conditions can be totally unpredictable. That's why most adventurers avoid these like the plague. Way too risky. But the 4 of them are going in for a speedrun. Petra says she checked the magic field. The dungeon will break in about an hour. Nagi knows that's his time limit. They just have to hope it's an easy one. No more talking. They cannot afford to waste a single second. It's time to go in. A golden light flashes, and when their eyes open, they're in another world. Chunks of floating rock are everywhere. Nero is all hyped, saying it was night a second ago, and now it's bright as day. And oh my god, that Vendar dude is there, saying today is finally the day he conquers his very first dungeon. This guy's insane, throwing himself into this as his first real experience. No way. He's claiming he will unleash a power that will leave everyone speechless. Petra mutters that they're screwed, and Nagi agrees. This is basically that Steam game. Go up. They must climb all the way to that dinky castle at the top. The kicker? They've only got 1 hour. Petra demands to know why he lied about being a gold rank adventurer. Nagi replies, they don't have time to explain. They just need to get started now. If he'd shown up offering help as a porter, those two would never have agreed to join. But with the gold badge, he's not only got them following, he's got them listening. Petra agrees. Ultimately, what matters most is saving the citizens. Meanwhile, Nuromiro just giggles, telling them to stop worrying. Humans are slow and useless anyway, but she'll hit the top alone and fast. She's already hopping from rock to rock like it's a trampoline. Dashtar stands there, confused and impressed, but he notes something feels kind of dangerous. Suddenly, a glowing bracelet appears on her wrist, and she gets yanked right back down. The guy tells her to use her brain. She needs to think before charging ahead like an idiot. Nuromiro tells him to stop picking fights as the others bicker again. Petra steps in, telling everyone to calm down. In a dungeon like this, it's normal to check for curses first. She activates her magic, revealing chains connecting the 4 of them. Is this not literally a Steam game, or am I losing it? Anyway, the important part is all 4 of them have to make it to the top. No one can go sprinting off alone. Nagi comments that flashy tricks won't work in this place. But it's fine because if there's one thing he's got, it's climbing gear. One of them looks confused, wondering why he's so prepared for this. He just says they should get started already. They only have 1 hour. One step at a time is key to clearing this kind of level-up Manhwa dungeon. You can't waste all your energy trying to reach the top too fast. But if you're too slow, you will run out of time. He keeps leaping from one floating rock to the next, telling everyone to stay in rhythm with him. They all have to keep the chain connection in mind and maintain the minimum required distance. Nuromiro says he's way too slow and that she's going ahead alone. But he explains if you dash forward, take a dumb path, and end up having to double back, you are going to lose time. They need to move slowly and stick to the correct route. This is a one-way trip. The idea is simple. Follow the most precise path. The problem is that this dungeon type is full of variables. Right in front of him is a flying creature that looks like a hippo eating a boulder. The creature chomps through the very route he calculated. Nagi never imagined something like this could even exist. Petra explains it's a flying stone-eating pig. The good news: it's not aggressive. Just don't provoke it, and it'll leave you alone. The bad news: it's eating the floating rocks, which happen to be their only path. Still, she's impressed, saying the ecosystem in this place is incredible. The creature eats rock, poops rock, and ends up creating new paths. But for them, this is a disaster. The route he planned out is now gone. He says he has an idea. He wants to throw something to trap the creature. Problem is, if he misses, he might provoke it and make it an aggressive monster. Dashtar tells him to chill. If the creature charges, he will handle it. He says it's his time to shine. He stretches his arm and tells everyone to watch. He's about to show them his stuff. That is how Van Dashtar overcame any challenge. He used a necromancy talent called Finger Summon, and a bunch of clay golems start appearing around him. Nagi actually compliments him, saying this might just work, but then he sees the golems are cracking apart and asks why they're falling apart so fast. Nuromiro chimes in. Dashtar is kind of famous in the beginner zones. Nobody trusts his summons. Most of the time, they either don't work or they explode. Not to mention, the guy always passes out and drools like a fool, but the guy insists. He says he can maintain these incredible creations for 5 minutes, and that should be enough. Nagi's thinking this is a terrible idea, but he's out of time to plan anything else. So that's it. They're going for it before it blows up. He throws the harpoon, and one of Destro's minions leaps for it, but totally faceplants the flying pig instead. Apparently, there's a psychic link going on, because Destar flinches and groans in sympathy pain. Now, as they're crossing the rope, Nagi figures that while this place is nuts, they've lucked out. His companion skills are clutch, and having a backpack full of gear, as usual, makes things way easier. That is, until Destar yells for everyone to hustle. The golems are crumbling, and he's not sure why, but it feels like everything's about to go boom. He's losing his grip, and dangling midair is not helping. And sure enough, the golems start exploding. A blast hits the pig monster dead on, making it roar in pain. That rope they trusted? Yeah, it totally snaps. They're all plummeting, and everyone knows they're screwed. There's zero chance they're surviving this. Nagi screams at them to grab anything they can, thinking even if they live, there's not enough time to make the top now. At minimum, he has to soften the landing. And of course, to fix this, he yanks something from his backpack. The solution is surprisingly simple. They hit a big stone, using the bag not just as a cushion, but as a trampoline to launch back up. He fires a grappling hook, and they all manage to catch a higher ledge. Petra thanks him, saying he saved their butts. But now they've lost so much ground. Can they make it in time? Nagi says there's no choice. From here on out, they can't use their special abilities. Everyone needs to brace themselves. They're going straight up, vertical style. He hands out frog-style climbing gear, repeating the same warning. If one person falls, they all fail. So they better be sharp. They dodge falling rocks, pass a freezing zone, flee a monkey's banana projectile, and even meet a knockoff Pokemon. They are completely gassed now, asking how much farther is left. Nagi says they're almost there, but they snap back that he's said that 10 times already. Nero complains. I signed up to fight monsters, not to climb a stupid mountain. Nagi tells her to shut up and look. The castle is right there. The bad news is, a boss is clearly guarding it, but the two are actually stoked, finally happy to have something to kill. If they can just defeat that thing, maybe Nero will finally rank up from bronze. Nagi thinks, It all makes sense. Based on their skills, there's no way these two should still be bronze in this level-up manhwa. Destar is likely stuck because nobody trusts necromancers, and Nero is from a recently freed slave race. They're all pumped up now, totally confident their gold-ranked teammate is going to handle it. But Petra speaks up, telling everyone to chill out. She says, "Something's weird here. That boss looks like a serpent dragon, but those things aren't normally purple. The only time their scales turn that color is when they're already dead." Nagi is stunned. We see a sword in the ground and a guy stretching like he just woke up. He'd already slain the dragon, and now he's looking around, wondering about all the noise. Then he looks over and spots Nagi's group approaching. Instantly, Nagi feels a murderous aura. Before anyone can even blink, the guy launches toward them. In a split second, he's right in Nagi's face. That's when Nagi spots the emblem on his chest. Mithril rank. The realization hits him like a truck. This was way worse than a no-show for a dungeon run. The newcomer calls this a big problem. He figured nobody would show up, and casually says this dungeon is meant to collapse. Nagi recalls that this world, like any level-up manhwa, has trolls who break things on purpose. The guy clenches his fists, saying it's a shame the four of them died heroically, clearing the dungeon. The next chapter opens, explaining this world's dungeons and rankings. At the bottom of the ladder are the poor saps born with white-ranked talents. They're usually stuck mining or scavenging for leftovers. Step 2 is becoming a bronze adventurer. Usually, useless guys, like that blonde kid, are all talk and no action. Obviously, on the other hand, even a bronze ranker is leagues above a regular human. Then you get to silver, where folks start to show some legitimate skill. Most of them can handle normal dungeons fine. Next up are the gold-ranked adventurers, who, like in a level-up manhwa, are usually captains of their own parties. Those are your standard ranks. But then there's a rare class. An elite few, almost nobody witnesses. These are the legendary mithril rank adventurers. Folks call them something beyond human. Their power is so absurd it's almost impossible to grasp. And now, one is standing right in front of Nagi. Who knows, he's completely screwed. From the guy's aura, it's obvious. Even if the four of them attack together, they wouldn't stand a chance. Nagi quietly asks Petra who this is. She replies, "Of course. There are only a handful of mithril adventurers in the world." She knows exactly who this arrogant punk from the Tao Guild is. He's the captain of a vanguard squad, famously known as Berserker Durkin. Durkin says he recognizes her now. She's that girl from the association. He then asks what she's doing down here playing adventurer, especially since she's just a white rank. But Petra fires right back that she's the one demanding answers. Why is he here? She steps right up, bold as ever, and asks why the heck he didn't clear the dungeon he reserved. Preventing a dungeon break was his job, so why was he slacking? Durkin just laughs, asking what responsibility she means. Adventurers do what they want for personal benefit. Sometimes letting a dungeon break brings more profit than clearing it. Nagi stands there thinking, I knew adventurers weren't heroes, but I didn't expect to meet absolute trash like this guy. If Durkin really wants a dungeon break, Nagi has to stop him. Problem is, he's mithril. A head-on fight is just suicide. So for now, the plan changes. Suddenly, Nagi completely changes his tune and gets all friendly, saying the great mithril-ranked Durkin must be misunderstanding things. They're just some passionate adventurers who stumbled into this dungeon by pure chance. They have zero intention of interfering. In fact, here, this little skewer is our apology. He knows hanging out in a dungeon like this works up an appetite. Nagi is fully aware he has no shot in a straight fight. So his first move is to weaken him. Durkin accepts instantly, starts eating, and says it's incredible. Seriously, the flavor is amazing. Then he smirks, calling the kid a fool for thinking such a cheap trick would work. And bam, he swings, saying this is his way of thanking him for the meal. Nagi barely blocks it, but gets launched way into the distance. The only problem? He's still chained to Nero, which means she's about to be yanked along with him. She braces herself as Nagi flies, but before she can pull him back, Durkin scoffs, saying, it's hilarious how amateur they are. They can't even break the link. He charges, declaring this will be their final resting place. But Dester steps in, yelling he won't let him lay a finger on Nero. An explosion rocks the island, and when the smoke clears, Durkin looks stunned. What is that weird creature Dester summoned that just blocked his punch? Dester doesn't even flinch. He simply asks if Durkin wasn't the one who invited them here, only to not show up. Durkin replies that, yeah, He sent the invitation, but he didn't think anyone would be stupid enough to actually show up. Still, the two of them are perfect for his setup. A necromancer and a beastkin girl. Just ideal. Dester tells Nero not to worry. Once their leader gets back, it'll be 3 against 1, and they might have a shot. For now, they just need to stall. His golem might not pack a punch, but it's a great tank. He just has to push on and fight like in training. Man, they're really going at it. Huh? And this mithril-ranked guy is having a harder time than expected. On the island below, Nagi's knocked out cold. Petra is right beside him, checking on him. She tells him she already did some emergency first aid, and he thanks her. But the situation up there is not looking good at all. Honestly, I'm shocked Nero, and Dester are still holding on. Weren't mithril rank adventurers supposed to be basically gods? I figured one hit and it would be over. Nero is flipping around like a maniac. Durkin swings at her, but she dodges at the last second as the golem jumps in to block the attack. He grabs the golem by its non-existent hair and just slams it into both of them. Down below, Nivea's awake now, and he admits his mistake. He messed up. He should have known that kind of poison wouldn't faze a mithril-ranked fighter. He asks Petra for intel on the guy. He's mithril, so there has to be a weakness. She explains he's considered unmatched in close-quarters combat. On top of that, his dungeon clear records are insane. He's known for fighting other adventurers and always winning. He's also a master of the great sword. Like in a level-up manhwa, one time, he split an orc clean in half with a single swing. Nagi yells at her for weaknesses, not Durkin's highlight reel. But Petra ignores him, saying the bigger problem is time. Even if they could somehow beat him, they're running out of it. The end of the dungeon is just ahead, but they are not going to make it. If it weren't for this damn curse wrapped around their arms, maybe they could have escaped or done something. That is when Nagi gets an idea. They've been treating the curse as a handicap. If one of them falls, they all fall. But the reverse is also true. If one of them reaches the top, they all do. It was time to turn this curse into a weapon. Not only could they take down this mithril bastard, they could finish the whole dungeon in one move. He starts reviewing his cards, thinking about his teammates' abilities, everything they can do. Individually, none of them is all that impressive. But if he combines everything they have, maybe there's a way. He turns to Petra and asks if, using her scouting talent, she can get a read on the terrain up top. She says, from this distance, it's easy. She can generate a full map. He tells her to do it fast. She pulls out a quill and in seconds the map's complete. Nagi looks it over and says the detail is beyond what he expected. It's funny how they're down here planning like this. Huh? Meanwhile, how's that fight up top going? Petra glances over and says, I finished the map. But how exactly are you planning to use it? Nagi answers that the map will be used to take down that beast. This fight wasn't between humans. It was between a human and a beast. I'm not sure where he's going with this, but let's see. He says it's common for adventurers in dungeons to run into monsters way stronger than them. Petra says maybe they use experience or strategy to deal with it, but Nagi shakes his head. Nope. She doesn't get how it really works. Real adventurers win through trickery. 2-on-1s, throwing bombs, laying traps, attacking from behind. To take down a beast, you have to fight dirty. And with that, he launches himself into the air, firing a crossbow shot. Durkin senses it instantly, snatches the bolt from midair, and scoffs, saying a sneak attack like that was never going to work on him. But right on the bolt's tip, there's a strange goo. It starts swirling, and before Durkin realizes it, he is stuck fast to the ground. He grumbles that the stuff is disgusting, and starts to break free. Meanwhile, Nagi's flying in at full speed, digging into his backpack. That grin on his face says it all. He's coming in for a direct confrontation. Finally, he's actually feeling fired up until he whips out his hands and just launches a bunch of mushrooms at the guy. It's like a smoke bomb. All at once, a huge cloud erupts around them. Durkin stands there in the haze, trying to figure out how Nagi covered the area like that. Within the smoke, we find Dashar. He is wrecked. Nagi asks if he's okay, and the guy groans, which is a clear no. His fingers are all broken. He can't summon golems properly anymore. Each finger corresponds to a golem, and he needs them intact for summoning. It's kind of like that old manga Maruhan, where the dude's friend would always get his fingers broken too. Nagi turns to them and tells them to listen closely. There is a way they can turn this entire thing around. Back inside the smoke, Durkin finally breaks free from the sticky gunk. He mutters that Nagi is annoyingly persistent. They probably fled with their crew to another island. But all this effort is pointless. Then he spots something walking nearby. A figure with a huge backpack. Whatever it is, it's making noise. Durkin is certain it's Nagi and mutters how pathetic he is. What is the point of all that smoke if you're just going to talk and give away your location? He lunges forward, hand ablaze with power, and throws a devastating punch. Boom! A direct hit. But his expression totally shifts. His hand phases right through a golem. He just stares, baffled. Why was it talking? Then he realizes the voice wasn't coming from the golem. It was coming from the backpack. So, where's the actual team? Nagi's way in the back, clinging to a rope. Durkin spots the rope leading to the island above, muttering it was a decent distraction. Not bad. But now he's onto them, he declares. There's no way for Maggie to escape. Maggie fires back. You sure about that? Then yells for Dashtar to launch it, now they're out of time. Dashtar hesitates, saying he's never tried this from so far away. With his broken fingers tied to the rope, Nagi shot upward. At the rope's end is a little golem finger stump. It suddenly glows, and bam, transforms into a giant bear golem. It lands on the upper island, slinging the rope over its shoulders, and starts yanking everyone up. But it doesn't stop there. It charges the dragon, digging into a scale. And yeah, it also obliterates the entire island in the process. Meanwhile, Durkin's freaking out. He has no idea why he can't move. Then he sees the golem's legs are buried and pinned by a mass of cords. He tries to shove the golem off, but Dashtar chimes in, saying, it's not going to be that easy. That golem thumb might be the slowest of all, but it's also the heaviest and most durable. As they're all pulled skyward, Nagi says again, this was never a fight between humans. It was a fight between a human and a beast. The island above cracks and crumbles. Everything's collapsing. And Nagi admits, yes, there are beasts that can't be defeated. But beating Durkin was never the goal. The dragon plummets, jaws agape, heading right for Durkin. At the same time, Nagi yanks the backpack, and the golem rips the ground apart. The creature is still latched onto the scale, but the rope is starting to snap. As Durkin is dragged below, Nagi's crew is pulled up. He yells down to Durkin, you better climb fast, 'cause the road ahead just got a whole lot longer. And just like that, they scramble to the top. Nagi's smiling, totally pumped, declaring, the fight's about to be over. He thanks Nero, because without her, none of it would have worked. She was the only one strong enough to hurl that rope from the lower island to the top one. She's all beat up in chibi mode, brushing it off like it was nothing. Dashtar, meanwhile, is practically green with envy. He mutters that it wasn't a big deal. Anyone strong enough could have done it. Even a total moron could have pulled that off. It doesn't matter what anyone says. The real MVP of this dungeon was totally him. His little golem not only secured the rope but also took down that berserker. Maybe he's already better than a mithril-ranked adventurer. Petra, watching the two, remarks that at least they're enthusiastic. Maggie says that's what clearing your first dungeon feels like. Man, if it were me, I'd already be bragging my head off. First dungeon, and it becomes this huge mess. Come on, I just wanted to kill a few goblins and level up in peace. He continues, saying a dungeon's satisfaction isn't from one person's incredible skill, but from everyone working together to win. He also makes sure to praise Petra, saying she was absolutely essential, too. He'd heard inspectors had a scouting ability, but he figured it was just something basic. When he asked for a map, he never imagined she'd create a perfect replica in just 1 second. That was the only reason he could plan everything. Right down to the explosion. He's sure even professional scouts would be blown away. The smooth talker has everyone blushing. And Petra thinks to herself that for all the praise he's dishing out, the most impressive one is still him. Pulling off a plan like that on the fly, there's no way he's just a simple porter. Not in this level-up manhwa. How could someone so talented be stuck in such a low-tier job? But then again, the kid was born with a backpack talent, and the world didn't exactly do him any favors. Dashtar then asks, what's gonna happen to that berserker? They all agree he should at least be locked up for life, but Petra's not so sure. As serious as his crimes were, he is still a mithril-ranked adventurer, and the stronger they get, the more above the law they are. That level gets national protection. He'll probably just pay a fine, and that will be it. Seems every dungeon issue just gets solved with a fine. Dashtar grumbles that he doesn't care. If that guy doesn't get punished by the law, he'll find him and serve up a beating himself. Nagi quickly shuts down that dangerous idea. What they saw from Durkin earlier was just a small fraction of his real power. He points to the creatures. Those are the corpses of the Nose tribe, who guarded the fortress. That guy cleared this whole area solo. Nuromiro and Destar are still fired up, insisting they could have handled it too. Nagi says he knows they're confident, but tells them to look closer at the bodies. The cuts are all at the exact same height, proving he likely killed them all in a single strike. In this kind of level-up manhwa world, strength depends on the weapon they've mastered. And they need to remember, when fighting Durkin, he didn't use his great sword. He didn't even use any talents either. He was fighting them with just brute strength. Nothing else. Destar pauses. Now it all makes sense. The moment that guy saw us, he charged in, leaving his sword still stuck in the boss. Hearing that, Nagi freezes for a second. If that guy fell with the boss's body, then yeah, he's down there now with his sword in hand. The fiend is smiling, and that's when the real fight begins. A slash tears up from below, and Nagi yells for everyone to watch out. Oh boy. Looks like that attack is gonna nail Destar head on. Man, the dude launched a massive strike from down there. It sliced right through the platform. What the hell? Why did I open my big mouth? Nagi says the guy felt way too strong for Mithril. Now, they're all hanging off the island's edge, trying not to fall. Nagi asks if everyone's okay, but one hit left them all scraped up. Nuromiro is slumped over like a rag doll. And worst of all, Destar's passed out and he lost his necromancer arm. But honestly, the most terrifying thing wasn't the attack. It was seeing Durkin already right there, closing in with bloodlust in his eyes. Nagi knows he'll be on them any second. At best, they have 3 minutes left to finish this. But if Nagi is confident in one thing, it's carrying stuff. If there's one thing in life he can do, it's that. The only difference this time is what he's carrying is a little heavier. He closes his eyes, grabs on, and starts pulling. He's climbing, dragging 3 bodies with him as the clock is ticking. Durkin gets closer and closer, smiling like a total madman. The hourglass is almost empty when Nagi finally reaches the top, hauling them all. The last sand falls just as Durkin leaps to the final level. He's grinning as Nagi clutches Destar. Man, those endless grains of sand. The gate is right there, glowing bright. They rush for the exit and face a crystal. The dungeon's core. Break that, and it is over. Nagi reaches into the backpack, pulls out a sword, and hurls it, spinning right toward the core. But just before it hits, boom, something crashes down from above. Of course, it's Durkin. Nagi sees him land before the crystal, swatting the sword aside. Now facing it, Durkin calmly says, "Time's up. Damn it." And yep, it explodes that very moment. Outside, the dungeon break begins. An old man is praying at the portal. "Hey buddy, you better run, unless you have a death wish." He's asking if God has abandoned them. And seriously, this dungeon break feels kind of unfair. They cleared the monsters inside. So why are these beasts pouring out? A whole swarm charges out. Even a boss shows up, not sure if that's a good thing or bad. But Nagi's group is at least face to face with the monsters. The only problem in a dungeon break is the number of creatures that spawn is endless. A classic, level-up, manhwa trope. Durkin grabs Nagi's neck. Isn't it magnificent? The sight of a dungeon breaking impresses me every time. Nagi figures this guy has pulled this stunt before, and Durkin just confirms it, saying it's obvious. But a weakling like Nagi could never get it. When a dungeon breaks, it usually regenerates into something way stronger, meaning the rewards inside also get a massive boost. Right? Nagi finally understands why he did it, and has to wonder, did he really not care about the villagers? The jerk just says, of course not. Adventurers live for one thing, bigger rewards. Whatever happens to weaklings like you, doesn't matter to me. And right then, Nagi feels a familiar disgust. Adventurers weren't heroes. They weren't saviors. In the end, they were just selfish jerks. And he hated people like that. He'd seen it too many times. The destruction, that powerful, malicious adventurers bring. But when he spots a giant bird soaring overhead, he thinks that, on the other hand, as rare as it is, there are still those out there with great power and virtue. Atop the massive bird stands a girl, a total badass. No doubt. She yells that she's ready, confirms the target, and then dives off in a dramatic, theatrical fall. Sticking the landing, she announces she's wiping everything out before the rift can spread. Her first move is a slash, using the talon of a magical swordswoman, igniting a blazing trail of fire straight across the boss's back. The gnolls are already panicking. Big time. They scramble to escape as a storm of flames swallows them. Durkin and Petra just watch, jaws on the floor. As the real powerhouse arrives, she introduces herself as Agnetha Farajiga, vice captain of the Twilight Wind, and without skipping a beat, she demands they explain what the heck happened here. A moment later, all the beasts are toast, and Nagi's completely wiped out. Petra asks if he's okay, and he says, yeah, but then tells her to take a look. The dungeon rift was already starting to close. Durkin was not happy about that. Even for a low-level dungeon, how the hell did she end it all with just one strike? It was seriously impressive. Then he calls her out. Hey girl, I know your guild's broke. So what are you even doing here? Weren't you guys inactive for 3 years? But Agnetha just answers coolly, saying she can tell just by looking at the scene that he's the one who caused it. And there's no time for his excuses. No way a mithril rank adventurer would have failed that badly. So, he must have done it on purpose. Durkin just wants to know if she's really trying to pick a fight. But even though he's acting all tough, inside, he's panicking, thinking she's one of those people he always wanted to face off with, at least once. Just, not like this. That split the island in two left him drained. Plus, his master had given strict orders not to cause any trouble. And on top of that, he'd already achieved his main goal, so there was no real reason to fight. He throws his sword over his shoulder and starts walking away. Agnetha asks if the loser is actually going to run away, but he tells her not to get the wrong idea. It's a smart adventurer move. He knows victory isn't guaranteed. He already got what he came for, so he's bouncing. But Nagi calls his bluff, telling him to stop lying. Everyone knew he wasn't just triggering a dungeon break, he was hiding something, especially after trying to off him. But the bastard pulls out the absolute lamest excuse ever, saying there must have been a curse in the dungeon that made non-party members look like enemies. Attacking them was never his intention, he just thought they were monsters. If they wanted to check, they could go see for themselves. It's just too bad the dungeon's already closed. Huh. So, since there's no one to verify anything, that's the story the association's going to hear. The poor group just slams their fists on the ground. If this goes to court, the jury will definitely side with the mithril-ranked guy. Petra knows that unlike in a level-up manhwa, telling the truth won't help at all. In the end, they'll be the losers. And Durkin just walks off waving goodbye. The four of them stand there seething, staring daggers at him while Nagi tries to calm things down, saying, well, at least we stopped the dungeon break. But then he suddenly drops to his knees. The guy is completely spent. The Queen of Twances returns to find the kid out cold, his hand mangled. She orders them to toss him on a Junin, the bird she's taking him for treatment. And just like that, the chaotic dungeon raid was over. At least the village was safe. Shortly after, the association folks appeared with treasure chests, apologizing for the mess. They swore they were working hard to prevent it from ever happening again, but obviously, that was just empty talk. Thanks to Agnes, Nagi was flown to Bellum, ending up in a shack that was a sad, Walmart-brand Black Clover hideout. Yep, this was actually Agnes's base. Nagi wakes up there. Dude, with that long, soft hair, doesn't he kinda look like a girl? Petra's sitting right beside him. He sits up, totally groggy, clueless about his location. He calls out for the inspector, and she immediately jumps up, asking how he feels. The whole crew is there too, clinging to him, grabbing his face, and crying that they thought he was a goner, but he just wants to know his location. He last recalls seeing that berserk dude fleeing. They tell him this is the Twilight Crew's base. Agnes even hired a priestess to fix him up. Nagi says that explains everything. It's why he feels no pain and everyone else looks okay, too. They claim it's nothing for first-rank adventurers, but seriously, this was their first gig. Destro then pipes up, saying, yeah, for a first-timer, that was one heck of a journey. But seeing the happy villagers, he finally understood what being an adventurer really means. He's grinning, thinking of that little flower girl. For them, it was a dungeon raid for glory. But for the locals, it was the salvation of their homes. So they all apologize for their early arrogance, vowing to our guy they'll become true adventurers. Nagi just says that's good to hear. He's relieved the village was ultimately protected. And now that it's all over, maybe it's time to drop the truth bomb. He isn't a gold rank adventurer. His rank was even lower than the other two. He was just a white rank porter. Now what? He's suddenly hit with insecurity, wondering, will they still treat me the same? Probably not. Then, going full drama queen, he says, guys, I gotta confess something, so please don't flip out. The truth is, he faked being leader, acted strong, and claimed he was gold rank, and all that jazz. Muramiro asks if that's all, saying, yeah, that's understandable. Can't do much now. Next time you're carrying our gear. But for now, you can rest. The door closes, and Petra asks if he really had to tell the truth. He replies his only hope is that they become genuinely good adventurers. After all, since he's working as a porter here, he's bound to run into those two again sooner or later, and it's better they hear the truth from him, not someone else. Suddenly, Petra clenches her fists, saying Nagi really isn't an adventurer. As an inspector, she's met countless adventurers, and most only care about treasure, committing any atrocity for a profit. But she's already seen he's different. With nothing to gain, he cleared that dungeon, risking his life just to save the village. He's the first person she's met who isn't an adventurer. He's a hero. She takes his hand as he lies there, eyes closed, still dazed, mostly because he's thinking, she has no clue what I just pulled. While Durkin and Agnesa argued, he spotted something weird from the closing dungeon rift. A chest began falling, clearly the reward for the break. While the others were distracted, he used his last bit of strength to shove it all in his bag. And now, here he is, hugging it like it's his precious. He jacked the entire reward for himself again, 2 times running. But Petra wasn't the only one mistaken. Muramiro and Destro totally misread it, too. Outside, Muramiro says, Destro, did you hear Nagi? That he's just a porter? Destro laughs, telling her she must have figured it out. It was so obvious. He says, yeah. Nagi's a legit gold-rank adventurer who likes pretending he's lower-ranked. A classic, level-up Manhwa trope. He thinks he's fooling them, but they're not that dumb. Okay, maybe a little. To be fair, Nagi basically handled everything solo. So it figures. The problem is this little incident was about to snowball into a huge mess. Durkin walks up to a guy in a white cloak, who asks what the interference was. The guy explains they ran into a strange group and ended up clashing with the Wind of Twilight. The masked man says there's no way they're letting anyone mess with the Dawn Guild's plans. Meanwhile, at the guild, someone else is standing up, barely keeping her balance. The girl's totally out of it, huh? She's thinking about a conversation she had with Petra about Nagi. Along the way, she had asked Petra what actually happened. Why was everyone so beat up? Why did the boy pass out? She wanted the full story. Had they really entered that place without permission? Because the group she saw in front of her didn't match the one that was officially registered. But Petra tells her not to worry. She's not here to judge anything that happened. She just wants to understand the situation. She came all this way here to investigate these dungeon break incidents. Lately, she's been looking into it, and it seems like most of the breaks are somehow connected to the Dawn Guild. And now, it just happened here, too. Strangely, Petra is surprised. Durkin clearly caused it on behalf of Dawn. He even let something slip at one point. Petra says, fine, she'll explain everything. But on one condition, she has to keep the whole thing on the down low. A guild secret. With that said, Petra begins telling what went down. Back with Agnesa. She can't believe the gold-ranked adventurer was a backpack boy. A strange twist for a level-up Manhwa. If the Dawn Guild hadn't interfered, everything would have been a breeze for him. But what blows her mind is that he still pulled it off. And even more impressive was the kid's mindset. The fact that he risked his life to stop that break. As she walks in, he asks if she was the one who saved him. Why is this kid always got his eyes closed? She just wants to know if he's okay, and he says he is. Thanks to her. Then she says, I'll get straight to the point. With the authority I hold in the Wind of Twilight, I hereby order you to join my team. He just replies with a simple, no thanks. The next chapter opens with some background on Wind of Twilight, once one of the most prestigious guilds in the Eastern City, or at least it used to be, until their guildmaster vanished. After that, Guy disappeared. The guild went into decline. And now, after a long time, they're holding a meeting. The purple-haired girl speaks up right away. I'm against this. Puffy Chi and Dorothy say that no matter how desperate they are, they can't just start accepting anyone. The other guy at the table named Nines agrees. Agnes says she clearly lost trying to recruit a guy like that. Not to mention, he looked like a damn porter for crying out loud. But the priestess Peruro says they're being way too strict. She supports bringing someone new in. Anne instantly snaps back that she's sure the only reason Peruro wants him in is because he's probably good-looking. Peruro says, absolutely not. She was only focused on healing the guy, and there's no way she'd care about stuff like that. Anne and Nines, by the way, are both gold-ranked. Peruro and the big bear guy are bronze-ranked. The bear tries to calm everyone down, saying there's no point in fighting since it's ultimately Agnes's call. The girls, though, don't seem to like that and say they have minds of their own, and if he keeps yapping, he's going to end up without any healing. The big guy senses he's about to be caught in the crossfire when suddenly the door swings open. Beautiful Agnes walks in and says they don't need to worry. He turned them down. Everyone turns to her, confused. In the next room, there he is, the boy with his big old backpack, wrapping up his arm and tying his hair back. He stretches his arms and says he's ready. Petra asks if he's already leaving. Wouldn't it be better to rest just a little longer? But he says no. It's time to get back to adventuring. She says okay, but wants to know why he turned down the invitation to join the Wind of Twilight. Guilds come with a lot of perks. He says he knows. And yeah, being in a guild has its benefits, but getting involved with a lot of people always leads to headaches. That's why he likes things the way they are. Simple, familiar. Petra says, all right. If that's how he feels, she isn't gonna push it. But remember, he's wrecked the Dawn Guild's plans twice now. He'd probably be safer with some guild protection. The kid, cocky as ever, tells her not to worry. He walked away from both scrapes just fine. Please, my dear. You literally woke up, KO'd in bed. Not exactly unscathed. But Petra just nods, saying she's heading back to the association. He thanks her for everything. As she's leaving, she says she'll be waiting for him to visit. The second she's gone, he smirks. He's hyped to check out his awesome loot. Immediately, he yells for Gluttony and dives into the bag for the treasure reveal. With that ridiculous bag, he can walk, run, even rip through space itself. And deep inside is Gluttony. Our boy asks what's with the long face, and Gluttony just says it's nothing. Nagi tells him to spill it. What was in that chest? He's dying to know. But Gluttony insists, nothing. Just an empty chest. Instantly raising Nagi's suspicion. How can a dungeon break chest be empty? Gluttony swears nothing's shady. He can just move on now. Yeah. Right. Nagi goes to open it himself, needing to check with his own eyes. He starts lifting the lid. Light streams out. He's stoked to see the treasure, but then his face just drops. Inside were 3 little bears. Bro. What the heck? What is this? He's sitting there completely confused, wondering if they're puppies or some weird baby creature. Then he glares at Gluttony, demanding an explanation. Where are his hard-earned rewards? Gluttony, now crying, says he did nothing wrong. He was just rummaging in the bag. When he opened the chest, there were 3 weird eggs inside. Before he could react, a little arm popped out. Then, out of nowhere, those 3 critters hatched, and Gluttony went totally soft, hugging them like his own kids. Nagi kinda buys the story, figuring they're stone monsters from the dungeon. Usually, tamers would love this stuff. But judging by their looks, yeah, he's sure these aren't the monsters tamers typically go for, which is a big problem. He cleared a tough dungeon, kept the reward to himself, and after all that classic level-up manhwa action, he gets a bunch of tiny creatures. So, now, what's he supposed to do? That's when Gluttony explains he's heard of these 3 before. Their parents were enslaved by the castle's serpent dragon, and to prevent the same fate, they were sealed inside those stones, so no one could rescue them. He then asks Nagi to let him raise the kids. He promises Nagi won't have to worry. Nagi turns and says, fine, I guess. Not much I can do. They seem kinda useful, so they can stay for now. But he lays down the law if they mess up the bag. He's kicking everyone out. Immediately, Gluttony calls out to the kids, telling them they have permission now. Bro, what the heck? I thought there were 3. Why does it look like an army? Next thing you know, Nagi's outside, hearing absolute chaos from inside. Yep, his bag was officially a zoo. Even if the dungeon reward was a bust, at least he still had loot from the dungeon itself. Time to handle that. At the trade post, he arrives to sell all the magic stones and monster drops. The old man tosses him a big sack of coins, and Nagi is pumped. It's been a while. But as always, it's time to restock mushrooms. The little things he uses for his tricks. Sharpening weapons, grabbing extra arrows. Yep. Our backpacker was fully geared up again. He grabs a watermelon popsicle, ready for a food tour in this new city. While walking around with his arms out like a plane, someone watches from afar, wondering if that's really the guy who messed with the Dawn Guild. He'd thought it was just a ridiculous rumor, but it really looked like the white-ranked kid. It was already insane this kid took down those clowns and got them jailed, but surviving Durkin 2 is something else entirely. He asks what Zero thinks. Does this kid seem strong? The shadow notes, it's happened twice now. So, no, It's not a coincidence. Even if he's officially a white rank, I'd better be on guard. That guy is definitely hiding something. I didn't want to get involved, but I hope he doesn't disappoint me now. Bro. Is he seriously attacking? What the heck? He blasts forward like a bullet at Nagi, who's just happily licking his popsicle when he senses a threat approaching. Something cracks and he instinctively dodges aside. Immediately, he demands, "Who the hell are you?" The guy only wants to know how Nagi dodged it. He barely leaked any killing intent. Clearly, this kid wasn't just some average backpacker, more like a level-up Manhwa lead. Nagi's bent over awkwardly, trying to figure this out when, bam, another slash comes in, and he dodges again. The guy tells him to stop hiding and show his hand. He wants to see this kid's true level. Enough with pretending to be a white rank. Our boy's still lost. But now he must focus. He spots the guy's gold rank mage insignia. But this dude is charging like an assassin. This level of hostility was just too much. Just standing there was no longer an option. Alright, let's do this. Nagi draws his massive sword. The guy asks if he's finally taking this seriously. He wants to see the swordplay Nagi used to take down his men. Nagi's swordplay involves sticking 4 mushrooms onto his blade's tip. The little guys are wiggling as he launches a bomb into the corridor. Our guy knows only a madman would face an adventurer that strong. The perfect plan, get the hell out of there. So, he runs into the street and starts yelling for help. He shouts that a bandit is trying to take him out. The guards turn, and Nagi points. He's right there, coming from that direction. I thought the guy would vanish or back off, but nope. A guard recognizes him. That's Ned, of the Dawn Guild, who says it's sad to see the kid run. Hearing that, Nagi gets it. Petra was right. The Dawn Guild was finally moving against him. A soldier asks Nagi for an explanation, but the guy clearly doesn't care. He gets ready, saying he's teaching the kid a lesson, and charges Nagi again. But this time, Nagi doesn't dodge. The hit lands in his gut, smashing him into a wall. Ned says, "This little backpacker thinks he can cause trouble for the Dawn Guild. Everyone here knows what happens to those who try something like that." Nagi yells that he's lying, that it's his guild's adventurers trying to end him, but everyone's just staring, and he realizes it's hopeless. Like Petra warned, the Dawn Guild has serious power in this city. A classic, level-up manhwa trope. No one will risk going against them to protect some white-ranked nobody. As expected, the whispers begin. People say they've heard stories of white-ranked backpackers pretending to be weak just to scam and rob others. The guard tells Ned, "Well, that clears it up. Do what you need to do." Then, looking at Nagi, he asks if he gets the situation now. No one is going to side with him here. Nagi wants to know why he's taking it this far. It was clearly your guild in the wrong. It's over. So why come after me now? Ned answers that. Yeah, no one cares what low-ranking trash from Dawn does. The real problem is that Nagi interfered with the guild's plans, which they don't let slide. Nagi realizes it now. This fear they drill into everyone is what gives them the power to do whatever they want. And Ned says that today he will help everyone remember why the Dawn Guild must be respected. But not to worry, he won't end his life. He likes to carry a symbol of the last person he dealt with, and he has no interest in carrying one from a white rank. Still, Nagi will walk away with a scar on his face, one that will remind him of the Dawn Guild forever. Ned lunges with a diagonal slash, a signature assassin move, aimed straight for Nagi's eye. Nagi thinks he is finished. No one would step in. No one in this city would protect him. But then a blade intercepts the strike. He thought it was over, but there she was, Agnesa, standing before him, sword drawn, blocking the blow. An absolute queen. She tells him, "Drop your sword. The kid is with the Wind of Twilight Guild now, so any attack on him means war." After that, Nate just walks off, and Shadow Zero asks if he's seriously okay with how that ended. This isn't the outcome he wanted. Nate just replies that his hands are tied. Agnes showing up wasn't part of the plan. He could try to take her on, but others are more interested in that. Still, this left a sour taste. For a simple porter, the kid was tougher than he expected. But at the end of the day, he's still just some insignificant little boy. At least that's what he tells himself to stop from going after him again. But then Zero asks if he's really sure. That's when Nate notices he's been cut. A slash across his face. He's stunned. He has no idea when it happened. He can't recall Agnes ever landing a hit. Zero says that's precisely the problem. He didn't even notice. He needs to go back and replay every single step of that fight. From finding the boy to the moment he thought he had already finished him off. He might have thought the kid had completely given up. But the truth is, Nagi never stopped fighting for a second. Right when Nate came in with that vertical slash, Nagi slipped a dagger in under the flash of the guy's own attack. Since he was sure no one would step in, he decided to settle it himself. That dagger threaded the needle right through the strike. Nate didn't even notice it. Zero says he's warned him countless times. The more Nate focuses on defeating an opponent, the more he lowers his guard. Nate wipes the blood off, licks it, and says Zero's right. That kid's not going to give up. They'll have to handle him personally. Meanwhile, Nagi puts the little knife away. He had it prepped just in case he couldn't grab his pack, but he knows if Agnes hadn't shown up, his life really would have been on the line. What he doesn't get is why Nate got involved in the first place. Why send someone that strong just to take him out? Suddenly, someone puts a hand on his shoulder asking what's got him so deep in thought. It's Nines, telling him not to be so shaken. Then Stone says the kid must be traumatized and should take it easy. And wait a second, Stone. The creatures in Nagi's backpack are also called stones. Are they from the same race? Anyway, they explain Nate is infamous even within the Dawn Guild for causing problems. That's because he runs a whole network of thugs in the city. Nagi says, yeah, I've heard of the Dawn Guild before, but I didn't think they'd stoop that low. Agnes agrees. She's also confused by all this. That's why she brought Nagi here instead of back to the city. Then, once again, she invites him to join their dungeon raid. He replies that, for now, he's good with just doing his backpacking job, but he points out there's a strange chill in the air. This was his first time in a high-level B-rank dungeon. In a graveyard, no less. Nines laughs. Don't be scared, kid. This dungeon's a playground for us. We'll slaughter a bunch of stuff. You just worry about collecting the loot. Nagi thinks he's not wrong. For a B-rank dungeon, this party is like a real-life level-up Manhwa, with gold-ranked members. Not to mention Agnes, who's mithril rank. Honestly, her being here might even be overkill. But one thing is bothering him. Normally in B-rank dungeons, you need a well-balanced party healers. Support. Defense, but this group is all warriors and attackers. Suddenly, Agnes tells them to stop. Looks like the welcome party has arrived. The first zombie soldiers show up, but the queen doesn't even flinch. She whips out her sword, crouches, and sends a blazing wave that slices through them. She glances back, draws the sword again, and here comes another wave. She's got style. Huh. Those poor undead things are getting absolutely vaporized. But among them, there's one buff monster coming straight at her. Nagi notes how this really is a B-rank dungeon. Creatures this strong showing up right at the start. The big one raises its arm to block and swings hard, forcing Agnes to dodge, but she springs right out of range. Dang, what a move. She lands behind it, lines up a sword technique, and unleashes a flurry of cuts into its back. Then suddenly, she's on the other side. With that, the creature's core forms a rose-shaped flame, and she torches it on the spot. While she's putting on a show, the guys are just gaping like it's a 3D movie. They've seen adventurers, but never one this strong. Talent is the bedrock of any adventurer. Obviously, better talent means more power. It's how humans can even face these monsters. Agnesa snaps that there's no time to waste. They gotta move before the monsters respawn. Everyone kicks it into high gear. In these labyrinth dungeons, you kill things, but they just pop back up later. Obviously, for that reason, they had to book it. Not just to slay the monsters, but to run. And more importantly, finish up before what they just killed showed up from behind. That's why a priest with perma-kill skills or holy water is crucial. The problem, both options are crazy expensive. And yup, just like that, the monsters they just dropped were already getting back up. Nines grumbles they should have brought Peruro. As usual, the guild's priestess and a permanent party member, but that girl's a little demon, charging for absolutely everything she does. And in a cemetery dungeon, she hikes her prices even higher. Nines can't believe the guild's too broke to even afford Peruro, but Agnesa tells him to quit whining. While Stone holds the monsters back, she's pushing ahead, and since Nines loves to sit back, he can stay behind and be a cheerleader. Confused, Nagi asks why Nines isn't fighting. He explains that, whoops, he forgot his weapon. Nagi is floored. The guy came to a dungeon and forgot his sword, Nines tries to explain. But his teammates call him out instantly. He's just that dense, always forgetting something. Nagi tells him to chill, he's got backup weapons. Just say what kind of sword he needs. But out of nowhere, Nines grabs Nagi's head and headbutts him, screaming he's an idiot. He tells him to listen up. He only fights with his sword. Elizabeth robust. It's his knightly oath. Nagi's just standing there thinking, what is with this weirdo? Suddenly, Stone yells that something's off with the monsters. There were way fewer than usual, and they were moving slower, too. Agnesa looks closer and sees their feet are sticky. Someone laid goo-filled spikes on the ground. She's puzzled, but it's obvious who did it. Our sneaky trap master. Turns out, like in a classic level-up manhwa, he knew they'd revive, so he'd been dropping traps behind them to slow them down. Nothing fancy. Just some slime and spikes. Still, Stone and Nines admit he's more useful than Nines. A bit later, they're running again, someone yelling about how many times these things respawn. Nines is complaining that if he just had Elizabeth robust, this would be easy. Agnesa just tells him to shut up already. They didn't have time for whining. Finally, they spot the cave's exit. She yells to Stone, "You're up," and he activates his talent, Shield Bearer, and slams the ground, raising a huge stone wall. The zombie horde gets stuck, and he says it's handled, though not for long. But when he turns to tell them to run, he freezes. They're facing a massive underground lake. Nines screams, "What the hell? Why is there a lake in a dungeon?" But Nagi's hyped. "Hey, there's a small boat. Better than nothing." Clearly, this was the only way across. Nines, however, immediately says it won't work. The small boat can't hold all their weight, especially with Stone's insanely heavy armor. Agnesa tells Nines to ditch his armor then. He's not fighting anyway. Nines is stunned, but Nagi agrees, telling him to toss it in the backpack. The guys start yanking off their armor and stuffing it in the bag. Agnesa watches, then freezes. Wait, did this lunatic strip down to his underwear? Yep, Nines is in his boxers. A short time later, they're on the boat speeding across the lake, and Nines wants to know what the hell Agnesa's panic scream was about. Just as he's about to say something, it's way too late for that. He's got a shiner and is vowing he'll never drop his drawers again. Agnesa tells him to shut up and quit whining till he gets his weapon back. But he claps back that with his oath blade. He'd have handled this solo. She snaps right back at him to zip it. Since he's the genius who forgot his precious oath blade in the first place, Nagi ponders how a knight's oath is the core of their power. They basically set restrictions on themselves, and in return, gain incredible strength. His gimmick is straight out of a level-up manhwa. Nines' oath is simple. He can't wield any weapon that isn't Elizabeth robust, but in exchange, that sword became a legendary, unbreakable weapon. Still, Nagi wonders why he doesn't keep that quiet. Knights usually hide their oaths, or else people could use them as a weakness. Agnesa totally agrees. The problem is, Nines has a big mouth. He brags so much everyone in town knows. Nines just shrugs it off, saying it doesn't matter. When he's holding Elizabeth, he's invincible. She tells them to just ignore him. That idiot isn't worth the breath. Wait a minute. Where is Stone? I haven't seen him on the boat. Is he in the backpack with the stone critters? Oh. Never mind. He's right behind Nagi. I'm losing my mind. Stone's there, saying Nagi's backpack is more impressive than Nines' sword anyway, especially since it keeps popping out great food. Nines agrees. Agnesa even paused slaying zombies just to scarf down some toast. So, the group is cruising downriver when Nagi suddenly tells them to wait up. Something's about to go down. And just like that, their little boat is surrounded by 5 undead creeps paddling right for them. Nagi instantly gets it. This boat is a trap, designed to drown them. Nines thinks that's ridiculous, and asks if Agnesa knew and went along anyway. She admits it was pretty much inevitable. Of course, they'd get ambushed on a boat like this. What could they do? Stay back and watch. The problem is, even expecting a trap, she didn't think they'd be swarmed by this many foes at once. Even if she tried to stop them all, they'd overwhelm her. Suddenly, a voice says, "I've got this." And once again, it's Nagi's backpack. He hops to the back of the boat, saying if they're fast enough, it's no problem. Agnesa's confused. How is the backpack gonna fix this? He just tells her to hold on tight. Then, whoosh asterisk. He blasts all the air out of the bag. The boat launches forward at insane speed. Agnesa wonders if it's some kind of wind magic, but he says calling it magic is a bit of a stretch. It's just compressed air that's been stored inside for ages, now released all at once. The downside is, to refill it, you literally have to leave the bag open in the wind and wait. The upside? When you need a boost, like now, it flies. The zombies are firing arrows, but they're moving so fast that every single shot misses. Nagi tells everyone to look ahead, They're heading straight for a barrier up ahead. Enemies were already waiting on top. Agnesa says it's fine. She'll break through it. But Nagi tells her not to. He says they've got enough speed. He just needs to add one more thing. Wind and fire have amazing synergy. Agnesa decides to trust him, activating her sword's attack. As she slashes, Nagi triggers the wind burst again. Flames merge with the gust, launching forward like a massive fire wave straight at the bridge. One poor ghoul on top doesn't even see it coming, and the barrier just explodes, clearing their path. Agnesa charges through, looking like a total boss. Someone asks, "Is everyone alright? That was way too close." Agnesa says, "Now, only one thing was left. The dungeon boss. And that's where he is now, right inside the Fortress of Death." As they walk through, Nines remarks, "This place has everything. A lake, a cave, a castle. For a B-rank dungeon, this one's way tougher than usual. Why does our guild always take these missions? We could have picked an easy one, with a nice reward for once." Agnesa answers that this is just what they do, and he knows it. Stone then turns to Nagi, saying that this might be his first time, but he'd better get used to it. Their guild always goes for the dungeons everyone else avoids. Nagi just replies that it's fine. As a porter, it's the adventurers who suffer, so for him, it's pretty chill. Agnesa tells them to focus. Even if it's only a B-ranked dungeon, sometimes the boss that shows up is way tougher than expected. At least this one wasn't hiding, since they were already face-to-face with it. The creature on the throne speaks up, calling them fools for stepping into his paradise. This time, the boss was a lich. The whole group knows a monster like that has no business in a B-rank dungeon. It's a real level-up Manhwa situation. And the thing with magical monsters is they are seriously unpredictable. Agnesa had already burned through a lot of energy getting here, since she'd been handling most of the fighting. This meant she needed to finish this fast before anything unexpected happened. So she rushed in. But while undead are supposed to be mindless creatures that charge at prey, this lich was something else entirely. Even in death, he craved knowledge and carefully studied his enemies. The moment he saw Agnesa coming, he knew she was protecting the people behind her, and in that moment, he found his solution. Her sword slash lands straight into the throne, but it's empty. The lich had used a blink spell to teleport right before Nagi, and then he speaks. "Fool, become my servant." He cast a cursed spell. But of course, Agnesa does the dumbest thing imaginable, throwing herself in front to shield Nagi, and just like that, the worst outcome unfolds. She's hit by the lich's curse and becomes their enemy. Nines immediately tells Stone to grab Nagi and run. They both question him. How is he supposed to handle Agnesa all alone? But Nines asks what they're even saying. A true knight never turns his back on an enemy. The guy's so full of himself, claiming he has to admit he's kind of a badass, and he just keeps going, saying Agnesa has been fighting non-stop, and her little flame is about to go out. Apparently, all this is part of his glorious plan. Agnesa glares and charges up a blast. She throws a wave of fire at him, and he's completely confused as to how she is still that strong. I thought he would pull something. Anything. But no. He just eats the hit full on as she charges in. Smooth and elegant, while he fumbles to dodge, crouching in the most awkward way. The best option was to run, but he keeps repeating that a knight never turns his back, and then he moonwalks. Yep. He starts the Michael Jackson moonwalk, retreating backward to the door. Meanwhile, outside, Stone and Nagi actually ran. I thought maybe they'd do something heroic. But nah. Look who just moonwalked his way out. Nagi asks if he wasn't supposed to hold Agnesa back. Nines simply replies that a knight never turns his back. Stone tells him to cut the speech already. He just turned his back on a whole horde of skeletons. But right then, they stop at a cliff's edge. Nagi tells him to look down. The undead they had managed to avoid earlier. Yeah. They had finally caught up. The group was completely surrounded. Nagi says things just went from bad to worse. Below them, an army of undead. Behind them, inside the fortress, Agnesa, now cursed. Stone tells them not to panic. He'll buy them some time, slamming the ground and raising a stone barrier. He tries to trap Agnesa inside, but she spots it, jumps onto the edge, and escapes instantly. The guy claps like an idiot, saying, as expected, of a mithril-ranked warrior, yeah, nothing I could do. While Nagi stands there staring, he's thinking that, even just for a moment, he needs to find a way to stop her. The problem is, any weak little trick wouldn't work on someone like her. So maybe this was the answer. He throws something that flies right past, making her glance behind. that sneaky brat threw food. And sure enough, like a little cat, she walks over to eat it and looks completely happy. Nagi starts sweating, thinking at least, even under mind control, she's still following basic instincts. But the obvious problem is, this is not going to last long. It's time to run back into the fortress and find a place to hide. Down one corridor, exhausted, he says it doesn't seem like she's following them for now. The problem is, meanwhile, the undead below are already starting to climb, and they need a plan fast. Nines says he knows. But nothing about this will be easy. Agnes is getting a power-up from a lich. She should be out of ether by now. That's like mana. But the boss is probably juicing her up directly.